Hi and welcome to a new video, guys, and finally we're at the stage where we can begin with the body and paint preparations on the Sirocco. So today's video we're gonna go a little bit step by step, but I'm gonna do different chapters of paint on the car. So first of all, we're gonna start with the front bumper, and that's fiberglass. I'm gonna go through a little bit how you work with fiberglass, how you repair fiberglass, and how you prep it for paint. We're gonna go through the sides of prepping metal for paint, and etc, etc. We're gonna jump into the sanding booth and start with the front bumper. And keep in mind, this car is from the 70s and the kit I think was from the 80s, so it's been on the road for a long time, but I think a lot of you guys can find the similarities in your cars that you have at home that you want to fix up. I took off the front bumper from the car, and I'm just going to show you the state of the bumper and what we're going to do with it and what materials we're going to use to fix it. So starting off, you have the front bumper here, and it's been taking a bunch of hits underneath, as you can see, and you can really feel how deep the scratches are underneath. So we're gonna prep that section of the bumper, and I can tell you how hard is it to round off the radius and make the holes perfect. This looks like a kid cut them out, and I think this came with the kit from Rieger. I really don't hope so, but it looks really bad. I mean, this line is not straight at all. So we're gonna straighten it out. We're gonna use a really rough sandpaper and a block from Big Kit Blocks. I have one really good. It's gonna fit really well and be easy to sand with. And I know tools are not everything, but some tools actually help out really good. But I have my blocks from Big Kit Blocks, and this is small enough, so it's gonna be really easy for me to sand it out and get this straight. So I think I'm gonna start with the 80 and finish off with the 240. So the stages is 80, 120, and then finish off with 240. But we're gonna start off sanding down the whole bumper, finding all the problems. So the problems I showed you, like the scratch underneath, we have some strange hole here that we're gonna patch up with fiberglass. I'm gonna show you the process of that. So I want to sand the full bumper down and find all the other problems. It's gonna be a load of stone chips, etc. So let's together take this bumper from a really bad state to perfect state before paint. You saw me sand down the front bumper, and I found quite a lot to repair. Keep in mind, it's an old bumper, but of course we have damages. So it's really cracked on the underside here. I think there's a little bit of a crack here. Then we had this, really strange hole here, and I think we had a big one in the corner on this side, and it's a really big crack here. As you can see, someone already tried to fix it. This is not the way to fix it. You can't just put Bondo over it. It's gonna crack right away. So what we're gonna do now is the next stage. I think it's better to focus on the cracks. We have one here also. It's not fully through. So what we're gonna do is using my air tool with a 36p grid. So it's very rough, but we're gonna do like a highway here, or we're gonna sand down quite a lot. What we want to achieve here is quite a deep groove, but we don't want to go through to the other side. What I want to do is, when I have put down my polyester and the fiberglass to reinforce this, I don't want to build like a bump, because then I'm gonna have a problem having it this very straight and flush, and that's very important on these parts. You don't want to create a bump outwards. So think about that when you're sanding down your groove for the fiberglass. You want to go down quite deep and reinforce it. So that's the next stage. I'm going to use this grinder, make my path or slot for the cracks. And then we're going to move over to the polyester and the fiberglass. I already did a lot of preparations for you guys so it goes faster to explain, but you saw me sand down quite a lot on the fiberglass. I took some wax and grease remover all over on the inner side and the outer section. You can never overuse wax and grease remover. You really want to use that to get a really good finish. And why I did that now was to be able to mount just some masking tape on this side. So I'm going to do the outer section with masking tape first because I want to build the inner structure first. And that's because if I would have done the outer section first, you usually get like a bowl. And then you have to build up that bowl with Bondo, and the Bondo is going to sink in the sun later on. So usually I begin masking off the outside, making the inner structure in the frame. When that's then dry in about a couple of hours, you can then pull the tape and sand down yet again and prep for the outer section. I'm gonna mix up my polyester, or resin as you call it in the US, and use 2% of hardener. And please be careful with this. If you put in too much hardener, it's gonna be really hot and it can actually catch fire. I have a big roll of fiberglass, so I'm gonna cut that out, mix the mixture, and then I'm gonna just use a paintbrush and put on the resin onto the panel and then the fiberglass. And then I'm gonna try to focus on getting out all the air behind the fiberglass. You don't want to have air bubbles in between your panel and the fiberglass. That's really not good because then it's not gonna stick. I have my mixture here. It's 2% hardener, and I'm gonna add it onto the panel before you use the fiberglass. So I'm just gonna use this, and then I have my pre-cut pieces here, and now I'm just gonna try to soak the panel or the place where I want to add the fiberglass like this. And then I'm gonna take my piece of fiberglass and just push it with my hand as good as I can before, so I a little bit soak it with my hands. And yes, it's kind of a dirty work, but then you use your brush and then you add the fiberglass. Don't use too much in the beginning. You just barely want to soak the fiberglass because it takes a little bit of time for the fiberglass to soak in the polyester or the resin. And the tip from here now, let that be for a couple of seconds. Move over to the next part and the next part and the next part, and you go in circles. And the next round you add a new layer of fiberglass. You soak that one on the panel, so you don't really rush it too much. You want the fiberglass sheets to be able to breathe out a little bit. So that's a tip. We're gonna do some pretty cool B-rolls and then be back when everything is dry, and we're gonna flip it over and do the same. So I flipped the front bumper off. I took off the masking that was on the front side, and you can see now it's a really good coverage. No bubbles, air bubbles or anything. It's very smooth and nice. This is not fully cured. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a secret that worked for me. So everything I'm telling you right now, or always, is how I work. I'm not telling you how it's done, because I have my way. It's not always the right way, but it works for me. So it's not fully cured yet. I'm gonna take the advantage to put the outer layer, because then I think that the fusion between the inner layer and the outer layer works better if it's like a little bit tacky. It's not really through. It's like almost sticky, but it's sturdy enough and it's really nice. So just a tip for you. So I'm gonna do that on the front side on all the patches that I did, and I don't think we're gonna film it. So I just want to put in like a good note, as we did on the front bumper with the fiberglass and all the preparations for that, we had a problem, and that's here. And we went through the damages that were here before, how much we had to cut away because of rust, and now I grinded down the fiberglass. I primed with a rust primer on the metal that you have here, and I'm gonna do exactly the same. I'm gonna prep this as I did on the front bumper. I'm gonna cut out my fiberglass, I'm gonna mix up resin, I'm gonna soak it just perfectly, not too much. Why we're doing that is because of we wanna have it flush and nice here, and if you just put Bondo on this part, that's gonna crack up, and we don't want that. And we had some unfortunate fiberglass fenders, so I had to prime here. So I sanded down quite a thick groove, and I saw that they've already been repairing the front fenders. So what I'm gonna do now is put fiberglass on the outside, and I'm gonna let it cure. I wanna do it on the car, because when you work with fiberglass or with resin and fiberglass, it often shrinks with the heat that you get. And would I have done this outside the car or off the car, it would maybe not fit again. So always do your panels on the car, and then you can take it off. I'm gonna then sand down on the inside and do the same and put it onto the car while securing. So that's, I guess, one hell of a tip that I've been doing multiple mistakes on. But I'm gonna cut out the fiberglass, mix the resin. I'm gonna do exactly the same that I did on the front bumper, and then we can start sanding down the car and yeah, see the hidden damages that's gonna be on this car. And I only have 2 weeks to prep this for paint. We're finally at the stage where the engine's gonna go out, and we're gonna prep for base coat, or the primer, I would say. So Matthias took out all the cables, everything around the engine. I would love us to be able to drive it like this, but we want a little bit more modern extra things to use. But we're gonna pull out the engine, and then we're gonna have a bunch of work cleaning up before we're putting down the epoxy primer and then the sand primer. So yeah, wish us luck putting out the engine, and hopefully we have no disasters. empty engine compartment, and now I would want to say the fun part begins, but this is gonna suck because we have a lot to do, and I think we have 4 days to do it. Yeah, and that's including curing time for the primer and everything. But what the heck, you only live once, right? And now comes the hard part. For me and Matthias, we're gonna cover a bunch of these unnecessary holes because we don't use them anymore. I don't think we're gonna go through which of them, but like that big hole.
Pretty much everyone I've grinded.
Everyone that's grinding down or doesn't fulfill a need, we're gonna take away. We wanna establish this shaved look, and then as we talked before, we had to cut out the frame. We're gonna box this in with a heavy 3mm plate, so we get the stiffness back again, but not too much. If Matthias has the unluck to crash, that's gonna crumple it together and save his ass. It's currently Monday, and we're gonna have to do this until Thursday because the primer needs 2 days to cure before I sand it down. And on Sunday, we're gonna be painting it with a really nice and cool color, and I think I'm gonna reveal it in this video what the color of the engine bay is, because it's not gonna be the same as the rest of the car. Because one thing that I really like, because I love paint, especially car paint, and I love painting bikes. I like to mix it up a little bit, and I want to highlight the engine because that's what we did on this car. That's one of the biggest highlights, is the engine swap. So it's going to be one color in the engine bay, and the engine itself is going to be the same color as the chassis or the rest of the car. So that's going to be really epic. First of all, we're going to weld and grind the hell of it, and I'm going to put you on a time lapse. It's going to seem like a couple of seconds for you, and I guess it's going to be a couple of hours for us. So we'll meet you up again when we're prepping for primer. Oh my god, we've been sanding, we've been grinding, we've been welding, we put some Bondo on. I don't want to look myself in the mirror because I think I look terrible. Yeah, he's just laughing. Yeah, that's so-called hard work.
You look like a mechanic.
A mechanic, yeah, some kind of other mechanic, I would say. As we said before, we are priming this engine bay for polyurethane primer, and that's a corrosion protecting primer that we're gonna put on. The benefits with this is that we can put down 3 layers 20 minutes apart, and then I can sand on it and paint on it. So it's a corrosion protected primer, but also sanding primer. So that's really cool. I'm gonna show you what I use later on, but look at the progress in here. Matthias is still sanding away a little bit, but most of it is in bare metal, and the positives there is that you can put this primer directly on metal, open metal. You don't have to prime anything before. So we've done the best we can and then sanded everything down. So I went with 120 grit, 230 grit, and finished off with the 320. 320 is a little bit high maybe, but I just want to make sure, because I know the color that we're going to put in this engine bay is going to highlight quite a lot of if you miss any sanding scratches. Then we started out taking all this grime and shit away. I tell you, this was horrendous work. Well, now we have bare metal all the way, and we now can safely know that when the primer is on, we will never see rust on this again. I would not say never, but we made our best work to do that. So what we're gonna do now, Matthias, we're gonna clean up a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna blow this off quite 100 times, and then we're gonna use wax and grease remover 100 times, and then we're gonna, unfortunately, we can't move the car. It's not recommended to put down the primer in here in the workshop.
Don't do this at home.
Don't do this at home. I would rather put it in the paint booth, but we can't really move it. We don't have any chassis or suspension in front, so I have to prime it here. So I'm gonna open up the doors on the paint booth. I'm gonna have my welding suction on, and I'm gonna have protection on. I'm just scared about everything else in the workshop. So I know, guys, this is not optimal. I know I shouldn't do this, but we're in a time crunch. Clock is already midnight again. Matthias and me are gonna be working in the morning, but we have to do this because the primer has to cure for 2 days, and then finally I can start painting on this car. Yeah, wish us luck. I just forgot to add that we put some seam sealer where we know the metal is split open and just kept together with a couple of welds. The rest of the engine bay is quite good. We did some on the other side and down on the lower control arm fittings, but seam sealer is quite important. So if you have two metals parts that doesn't really meet or does meet and doesn't have a seam seal in it, put seam sealer in it. It looks like that. The positive with the seam sealer now is that I can put the primer directly onto it. And now I guess I'm going to show you the magical primer that I'm going to use. So I've been using Standox and Sudox, so Axalta paint and base for a long time, but I've tried out many others and I've found to like the Stando Fleet epoxy primer. It's the U2200. I don't know, it's just easy to put down. I have not have any problems with corrosion after, and I'm gonna put that on with my W500. This is my to-go-to priming gun, and it's gonna be a 1.6 nozzle, so it's gonna be quite a heavy coat. I'm gonna put down 3 coats. I'm gonna wait 20 minutes in between so the thinner lacquer can evaporate, and you don't want to build in the thinner lacquer. You're gonna have some problems later on. It's 5 parts of the epoxy and then 1 part of the hardener. I'm gonna blend it out, and I think, Matthias, you're already done with the wax and grease remover, and then you blew everything off afterwards. And I'm gonna go in yet again with my anti-static air gun and blow it off again, because I don't want the dust to collect back again to the metal. Yeah, if you don't have that, just clean up 3 or 4 times. Put in the time of cleaning it. You don't want any debris in your primer, because that's going to show in the later section when you put on your base. Next stage in the process is to sand down and prep for paint. And what are we gonna do? I'm gonna start off using my sander. It's a simple tool. It's a sander from Pela Tools, and I have a soft pad. So what I mean with a soft pad is that I have like a sponge on here. That makes it much smaller risk that I burn through the primer that we put down on the on sharp edges. But still, you don't want to burn through anything you're sanding. because you need to put primer on it again, because we have bare metal underneath, and if we go through and put paint on it, no protection whatsoever. So I'm going to start with a 230, and then I'm going to move over to a 400, and then to a 600 or 800 grit paper. So I have my sander. It's connected to this vacuum cleaner, and it's from Pilla Tools. It's not that expensive. I think it's like 300 bucks. So I really highly recommend you to use such a tool, because it sucks up all the dust. But if you don't have that, just use a regular sanding tool, and a lot of this is gonna be by hand, because I can't reach with this big disc. So that's why it's gonna take so much time in the engine bay, because I'm gonna be like sanding with a sander for 10 minutes and then it's over. Then I'm gonna have to do it by hand, and then I'm gonna show you what paper I use there. But it's like a spongy, flexible sandpaper that's perfect for hand sanding. As you saw in the time lapse, it took me forever to do this, but we're done. We're gonna do small touch-ups, because I went through the primer, of course. I told you not to, and I'm doing it myself. But that's the risk of using a machine. And so, as you can see on the firewall, I went through on some spots. So I'm gonna put some 2K quick hardening primer over this, let it dry, scuff it up, and then it's ready for paint. And that 2K primer is corrosion resistant, so that's good. The tools I used was, first of all, I showed you the sanding grits that I had on the machine, but then quite quickly I went over to these kind of papers. They're called soft pads. I have now gone over to Axalta, so that's the name of it, and I think these are really good, but they are still a little bit stiff. And Axalta has now come out with something called sanding sponges. They're really soft, but they are in a perfect grid, so you can sand down, as you can see here. So when you have a problem getting down in some cavities or really strange geometries, this sanding sponge is so good. You just go over with your finger, push it in, and it actually reaches in the groove like that. And that makes your life so much easier when you're sanding. I don't know if anyone else has it yet, but Axalta has them and they are perfect. I think they're called sanding sponges. A high recommendation if you're gonna do these kind of geometries. I'm gonna put down 2K primer on the spots that I went through, and then we're gonna let that harden for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna scuff it up. Me and Matthias, we're gonna mount back all the front suspension and everything, because we need to roll this into the paint booth, and I'm gonna clean the paint booth first. So we have a lot to do. Clock is 6:30, so I think I'm gonna be here tonight again. So over to the next step. Jag får långt till höger, va? Jag får backa lite. Håll igång. Vänta. Ja! Lyssna! Så kom igen. Hur fan vad roligt! Ja, det var nog bästa, lättaste inkörningen jag har gjort någonsin för den här boxen. What I'm gonna do now is wax and grease remover. I've been saying that 100 times. Wax and grease remover. Then I'm gonna go over with sticky cloth and the iron star gun yet again. And of course, you don't need the iron star gun, but be very thorough when you wash everything off. The more time you put in this section, the less time you need to have sanding and buffing later on. So I loaded my gun with the paint. I'm going to start off putting it down a very light coat. I don't want to go thick in the beginning, and then I'm gonna, in the second and the third layer, go a little bit heavier. I'm gonna have it around about 20-25 minutes in between rounds, and then we're gonna jump over to the clear coat. as you saw in the time lapse, 2 coats of clear. The first one was really thin, and the second and third was a quite thick layer. I'm super happy with the results, and I like the color, but the shimmer in this color is amazing. I love the shimmer in this paint, and I love the clear coat, how it flows out. It's really nice to lay. Ah, look at that shimmer, so freaking nice. Damn. The clear coat, this came out really sick. This came out freaking good, and I'm super happy with the results. And now I'm gonna let it dry for over the night, and then tomorrow me and Matthias, we're gonna try to get this chassis out into the sanding room, and I'm gonna cover this up really well, because then we're gonna move over to the chassis and prepare that for paint. It's awesome to finally see some clear coat on this car. So I really hope you liked today's content. We're super happy with the results in the engine bay, as you could see, and in just a couple of days we're going to release the next video. We're jumping over to the body of the car, so we're going to go through a bunch of know-hows and a bunch of materials that I use. So thank you for watching today. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and as I always say, have a good morning, good evening, and goodbye wherever you are. Bye bye.